But, okay, if you are in, say, some giant dungeon deep into the dank depths of other D words, dank depths of darkness, dungeon.
Of dungeon delving.
Dank, dark dungeons of dark druidly daisies.
Just as a reminder, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast. The notes of what series are going to pop up will be in the description. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Gaming Theater Podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about talking skulls, other skulls, and just famous skulls in general. This is episode 4, Talking Skulls and Famous Skulls. Now, with that, I've got a couple of guests here who's going to help get through this subject for it, and we'll introduce each other. Once again, my name is Leo, I am the Geek Scorpio, and with me today is...
I'm D&Daine! Hi! Twitch.tv/D&Daine. I don't know what I'm supposed to say here, I'm sorry.
That's Dane.
Leo, we didn't discuss the script on
There
this.
isn't much of a script, you just say your name.
Oh.
D&Daine!
I'm Ben. I'm El Penguin.
And I'm Brittany. I also go by Spice and Rose.
I think I would have learned how to do this since I've already done one, and yet here I am. My apologies, Leo.
Oh, that's okay.
You know what? Same.
For reals, he's the only person who gets on the ball in this one so far has been Steve. He is ready to go every time. So before we get started, let's take a trip over to the magical merch booth and see what kind of merch we have today.
Heck yeah.
You do need like some catchy mall music.
Look at that thing.
Elevator core.
We're going on an adventure! Hooray!
We don't need catchy mall music. Well, we got the Bard over here who still manages the magical merch booth. He just doesn't do a great job. Although he is selling a couple of things from your Spice and Rose stuff. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh god, it was a trap. So yeah, I am a traditional media fantasy illustrator who also dabbles with the anime stuff because who doesn't love anime? Do a lot of illustrations, sticker sheets, coloring pages, and if you are interested in seeing my work, quickest way to do that is to go to spiceandrose.carrd.co. That is my card. It'll show you a bit of my portfolio and quick links to wherever you want to go.
Yep, and we'll make sure there's a link at the bottom of this description.
Huzzah!
It's amazing.
It looks like the lines are starting to move. The show's about ready to go, so let's get back up to the show. Alright, so today we're talking about Talking Skulls and Famous Skulls. Now, the main reason why we titled it The Talking Skulls is because for another legendary artifact of gaming episode that we did, there was an episode on Talking Skulls. Brittany did the artwork for some of that episode, and Dane was the narrator for that episode.
I was.
It was a fun one to do too. So the reason why we would talk about Talking Skulls is because skulls themselves are symbolically important to the nature of other storytelling and such. To quote the Illustrated Signs and Symbols source book by Adele Nozadar, the skull is considered the most important bone in the human body, as it was believed to contain the life force of both body and spirit. If the skull is ever severed from the body, it results in instant death, hence the power of the skull. So, skulls themselves are symbolic towards death, but more to that, they're symbolic towards the soul for long periods of time in ancient history. And that's just mostly because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if the skull is severed from the head, you're just gone. That's just it.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are talking about talking skulls. I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, that Dullahan are a thing.
Ooh, yeah, Headless Horseman, right? They don't have skulls as such.
Okay, there's that one guy.
Hey, until we find out what's at the bottom of the Disney Vault, we're not quite sure yet, okay?
True.
But that's the thing. Skulls are super important. You don't hear too much about people with a still moving around leg being important. And I think as far as hands go that are still moving around or arms, I think there's Thing from the Addams Family, and that's about it.
So I know this maybe is a bit of a weird question. I know that for a lot of people who have lost limbs that they've had before, they have like phantom limb syndrome. And obviously, I'm not saying that somebody who's decapitated can have a phantom limb syndrome for their head necessarily, but uh, do you think like a Dullahan or one of these other creatures who have lost their skull uh, feel anything like that? I know it's a little bit outside the scope of what we're discussing today, but I find it interesting.
Maybe. So for Dullahan, describe a little bit more of Dullahan.
So Dullahan, like the headless horseman, right? So typically they have been decapitated. I believe they're Celtic, so maybe Irish, Scottish. I'm not sure where specifically they hail from.
Irish
Irish,
folklore is what
gotcha.
it looks like it comes up, but
My ancestors will be sad at me, but
they are part of the Celtic culture as well. From their fall from a Celtic
okay.
god. I guess you got a 50-50 shot.
Heck yeah, nailed it. But yeah, so basically they're these creatures of the night, and they roam around Sans Head, and you can see them. I think most people who grew up in the '90s and early aughts would know them from the Legend of Sleepy Hollow specifically, where we had Ichabod Crane and all of that whole situation that he faced.
Yeah, I think that the nature of Dullahan makes it so that way the head is purposely severed from the skull now, from the rest of the body, and so it's not the only mythology that allows the to keep going. So I think for Dullahan's purposes, yeah, um, someone will basically say, "Oh man, we got to stop Dullahan. Why don't you cut off his head?" Yeah, I'll do that. That worked the first time.
He put a pumpkin up there. I don't know.
It's like, what's that supposed to accomplish exactly?
The pumpkin or cutting off the head?
Cutting off the head of a Dullahan is like, well, you see, the head is also in their hands.
Unless it's like the boss fight with the Headless Horseman in Warcraft. Because you kill the body, but really you have to kill the head.
True.
Otherwise, the boss doesn't die.
That's a good point. It is kind of a talking skull in that regard, right? Where it does jump off and fly around and like yell at you.
Yeah, he yells at his body. He's like, "Get over here, you idiot!" Like,
kind of like a two-headed giant sort of scenario, but
yeah,
one head and one body.
It was some old cartoon. I'm trying to remember what it was, but I thought it was hilarious. That's one of the things that happened was his head is severed, and he just keeps yelling at it. I think it's the genie from Aladdin. Aladdin. He goes, "Come over here. You're getting closer. Come on.
Yeah.
Why can't you do anything?" And at some point, he stops and just realizes that, oh wait, I'm the head's the part with the ears. Why am I yelling at this?
I remember that.
But yeah, in a lot of cases when it's something like that and the head's severed, but it's still going, the head is a critical, basically a critical point. A lot of times when it's a creature like that or a monster like that, we're talking about probably like certain variations of zombies have that, where the skull is, the brain is still intact, it's still coming at you. It doesn't do anything because it's a head that's just lying there.
Yeah.
But it certainly tries its best.
But it tries its best.
True.
But yeah, so like in those cases, I think the head might just be a critical point, but the Dullahan and monsters like that still need the head because they still need the brain to keep the rest of the body going. They're not together, but they still need it. So I think if you smash Dullahan's head, you still have a shot at getting away from this guy. So with that, there's other cultures that are significant that put skulls at a type of significance for themselves, which is one of the most interesting things for that. Probably pirating and their symbols, the Jolly Roger. It has a skull and crossbows. It still has a skull on there.
So
what the symbology?
Yeah, actually, pulled that up for you. So, but initially, the symbology of a Jolly Roger is not only the pirate's pride, but it's also just kind of just like a warning sign to anyone else around going by. So initially, just like just kind of think of it just like a country flag, except your country is just a little ship, and you're going around having adventures.
Yeah. To that note, like the other thing that people recognize the skull as an image for is poison. Poison bottles.
Unless it turns them into a llama instead.
A llama? He was supposed to be dead.
Cusco's poison.
Poison made for Cusco.
Yeah, the
Cusco's
poison.
poison.
The poison from Cusco. The poison
What
made
have I done?
specifically for Cusco. Cusco's poison.
Oh, I love that movie so much. But yeah, so skulls, their big thing, culturally speaking, has been symbolic. Um, they usually relate themselves to symbols of death, symbols of power, symbols and associated with the soul. Probably at least in the Americas, what's the biggest symbols for those is the Day of the Dead festival that we have.
Yes.
Ben, I want you to take a shot at this and explain the Day of the Dead and some of its nuances again.
So, yeah, so the whole thing with the Day of the Dead, of course, is just to honor the ones, that passed before you and, remember all of them. I'm pretty sure that we've all seen Coco, right? They give a.
Absolutely. No, actually, no, I haven't.
I can't because I don't want to cry
Yeah.
about my grandma.
Well, we can talk about it, but
yeah, no,
anyways,
absolutely.
just skulls everywhere, and God, does Mexico love their skulls? Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
actually, even now when you go to Mexico, there's multiple museums that are dedicated to just skulls. And we're talking like not just ones that are just hugely decor, but like literal like human skulls like throughout time, different ones. Just like this is what like the skull of a Mesoamerica, skull of a conquistador, and all that, so on and so forth.
And a sugar skull.
No sugar skulls, actually. During the sugar skulls usually represent the people that you're honoring themselves. So some people just get it and be like, you know what? I feel like they would have loved putting that there. And it's also, I believe, why a lot of them put the makeup on. And I think that's kind of how it transfers. So it's just like, instead of having the makeup on, now you have this little skull that represents the person. So it's like they're with you. And you all just look like sugar skulls now. It's like, that's so wonderful and sweet.
Get a little drawing of that.
Oh, yeah. But, actually, in that one of the most famous figures of it is one called La Catrina, and she's depicted as they're just a skeleton, but she is in this just late how was it like late 1800s, early 1900s, just like elegant, just like dresses and all that. And what was actually what I think is kind of funny about it is that La Catrina was made by this Mexican artist named oh god, what was his name? I know his last name's Posada. Give me a sec. There we are. So his name was Jose Guadalupe Posada, and he was just a political cartoon artist who was just famous for just making little cartoons, but of things depicted as skeletons. So at some point, the 1%, being the 1% and all rich and high mighty, are just like, we're above you or all that. And he's like, yeah, but you know what? At the end of all this, we're all nothing but skeletons and clothing at the end. So he literally took one of the most famous, like, woman, and essentially, as a huge middle finger of just like, you're really no better to the rest of us, just made a whole thing of just her famous dresses in a skeleton. And it's like, boom, bitch, you're just like the rest of us now. And actually, what was dope is that one of my uncles is actually from.
So I wanted to interrupt real quick. So what I'm going to show them is the picture of what La Catrina looks like. So to our listeners at home, La Catrina looks like basically a tall, elegant dress, like the dressed figure. So it would have a giant hat with feathers and plumage on there, and also one of those like I want to say 1930s, 1940s, 1920s, 1930s style like long dresses with the
Actually older than that. So that these kind of dresses actually would have been more into the late 1800s,
like the Victorian style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was literally just like the going from the Victorian to just the modern era of what we have now. And actually, a perfect example is Lady Death from Book of Life. It's like she's literally like Katrina. The whole get up, that's what she looks like. And actually, back to Coco, literally anyone who's in just a long dress and a big hat, that is literally the La Catarina outfit. The artist, Jose Guadalupe Posada, was from Aguascalientes, and what was really dope was what one of my uncles living there, and like when Bobby and the family said they were going to go down, I was like, I'm not going to go down, but I'm kind of curious to see what this looks like. So I literally just Googled it, and I kid you not, there were just these gigantic skeleton statues just hanging out. And I'm like, huh, that's kind of appropriate for literally the guy who made this whole thing just happen. Again, as a middle finger to rich people, that's just like, yeah, you know better than the rest of us at the end.
And she wears some sassy dresses.
Oh yeah, apparently she was not a nice person. And Jose was a troll. Aw, the troll comics of the early 1900s.
Skulls are a big thing for that because it goes with Day of the Dead and then All Saints Day afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it related to being basically Mexico's Halloween, which there's similarities, but there's a lot of differences for it.
Yeah.
Ironically, though, they're about the same time frame.
They're actually like just right next to each other. I think like the De los Muertos starts at like November 1st and then just goes on for a couple days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like 1st through 3rd of November is Day of the Dead. But there's so many like thinning of the veil holidays that happen around that time.
Right. It's like this is a time of year where we know things are just sort of getting spoopy and dying.
So I wonder if that's done on purpose because like October and November is roughly the last few days of harvest in North America.
Yeah.
But that would probably be the same for anywhere in the northern hemisphere, right?
Right.
Yeah, because I know when you get into more like British, Irish, and like European folklore, they all have their own sort of either micro holidays that were either appropriated or like sucked into Christian holidays or what have you. And a lot of it had to do with, things are dying down. It's the end of harvest season. The seasons are definitely changing into something else. For some people, it's considered like the start of the calendar year is in that late fall, early winter time period.
So the start of your year is like when winter starts.
Kind of, yeah, because like I grew up in New Mexico, and in Santa Fe, it's usually like September, but that's still harvest season. There's the burning of Zozobra, who's Old Man Gloom, and that's considered the start of like a fresh start to your year, like kind of a New Year's sort of situation. But it's not really tied to like talking to the dead or anything like that, even though Old Man Gloom kind of looks like a skeleton. Like he's kind of skeleton adjacent, but they make this giant like 40-foot plus tall puppet and set him on fire. And it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Every year you can either virtually or if you're there in person, send in your gloom, like all the things you want to let go of. And they stuff him.
They stuff it.
They stuff him with gloom and they light him on fire.
It's like, so what multiple cultures realize is that, you know what? Big ass skeletons are pretty cool at this time of year.
Oh, yeah. That and Zozobra is like a fairly recent thing, too. Like, it was an art project someone started like in the 50s, I want to say. It's just a weird art happening, and every year the puppet got bigger. And then it became a charity thing, and every year it's a thing.
And then we set it on fire.
Yeah, and then we set it on fire. It's great. Everyone loves setting things on fire.
No, we're not endorsing pyromania. We are saying it exists. World of difference.
Yeah. We're not telling you to go set things on fire. Just like if you got some gloom, just send it to Zozobra. And...
Yeah, don't worry, he'll take care of that gloom right quick.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
You don't need to add kerosene to the gloom. It'll do it on its own. So what's funny is that skulls that we see are symbolic for these things, but they also are used not only culturally, but we also introduce them to ourselves from basically in different physical locations. Like if you have how many like spy movies or mystery movies or monster movies has a Skull Island somewhere in there?
Yeah, spy. Did you say spy movies too?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, like I always think of like the evil villain have. It's not a talking skull, I guess I wouldn't say, but like they always have like a hideout in a skull, a giant skull somewhere.
It's like, why does God look like a skull? Because it looks cool, okay?
Yeah, like they're paying the contractor extra.
It's like, listen, man, listen. All right, we did not check out multiple cultures to think, what is the most badass? Just like, I'm going to kill you, but I want you to look at something cool. It's just like giant skeletons want to make a skull thing.
so like we're moving on from like talking skulls in general to, and we'll go back to some talking skulls later,
Mhm.
but into like locations that happen to look like skulls and bones and
Mhm,
such.
mhm.
So one of them is like, yeah, there's a Skull Island. Kong is on Skull Island. It's in the. That's not
Oh
even a
yeah.
spoiler. It's in the name of the movie. Kong, Skull Island. You better believe it's shaped like a skull. Um, Venture Brothers. They apparently like the offshoot of the Venture Brothers compound is a Skull Island.
Mhm.
Oh, actually, I just remembered in One Piece, there's literally a sky island where half the island got shot in the air, stayed in the sky. And people were just like, find the city in the eye of the island. And they took two different halves of when the island was whole, just like, yep, it's literally a giant skull.
I think you just have to standard issue have a Skull Island at some point, right?
It's just, I wonder if these skull islands were just like different variants. Just, I was like, this happens to this skull island, and this happens to this skull island.
This happened to this skull. This Skull Island has a little bit of hair on it.
All right, there's the anime skull island. There's a skull island with a big ass monkey. This is a skull island that got torn in half. So it got a little weird over there.
It's one of my favorite jokes in The Simpsons, and it's like, where are we going? Ape Island? What do you have there? Apes? Man, I wish we were going to Candy Apple Island. Candy Apple Island? What do they have there? Apes. But they're not as big. If you go to Skull Island and they have no skulls, that's kind of a letdown, right? At least one, I think. At least one.
It's like, listen, something here has to be skull shaped. It's in the name. If it's there's nothing here skull shaped, that's just false advertisement.
I wonder if, like, you put a. What if you're not a supervillain of some sort, right? You just happen to live on this island with a skull. Wouldn't you just get people hunting treasure to stop by every couple of minutes or so? Like, doesn't it scream pirate treasure here?
Oh, absolutely.
And now you see, and that's what goes back to my whole thing on just like, what if it's just the same island, but just like different storylines just cross it? It's like, what if there's just treasure all over the island, but everyone just has maps to just one specific treasure? It's like, man, dude, you just walked over like a whole trail's worth, but no, let's go to this one that's way back here next to the tree, okay? Find the eggs, whatever.
It's a whole like vacation campaign. Try to find the skull. Little treasure.
Like, Skull Island, find the treasure, be my friend.
They're just trying so hard to get someone to come visit.
And then watches like all the friends leave and just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna be a villain now.
The true treasure was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, see, it goes full circle.
So the island started first, then the villain. That's a whole chicken and the egg scenario right there.
What started first, the friendship island or the super like villain hideout?
And that's how you get your own Skull Island.
There's other things that have like physical skulls in there. A really interesting relationship is in Christianity. In Christianity, when Jesus gets crucified, the place that they crucify him is called the Golgotha. Now, Golgotha is also known as the Skull Mound. Now, it's titled that because, well, a lot of people. Jesus isn't the only person they crucify there. He's just the big celebrity. There's other acts in Vegas. Elvis is just the coolest one we got here right now. There's a set of caves in there on the side of the Golgotha that looks like a skull when you're far away, and so it's also known as the Skull Mountain. That's where they were taking people down. That's not where they bury them. That's just where they just, I guess, for convenience sake, we're crucifying everyone on the same spot, like a timeshare.
I mean, look, you don't want to spend all of your day running around looking where to bury somebody, right? Like, let's just put them all in one big pile, and we'll just figure it out when we need to.
It's like listen, man, consistency is key.
Well, yeah, we'll kill them here. We'll take them out later.
Humans are nothing if not lazy and efficient.
And consistent sometimes.
Very
Hmm.
consistent.
Unfortunately.
It's like, let's just keep it right here. And then it kept going. And then it kept
Well,
going.
this is the way we've always done it. Why would we change it?
Well, I would change it. That actually brings up a weird mystery that happened in digs in the Aztec region in Mexico, because they find the dead bodies of where a bunch of people get sacrificed, because a lot of those large temples where human sacrifices are done. Fun story. They don't just sacrifice humans there, but human sacrifices are their highest ranking of a sacrifice. So, like, you get 10 points to your sacrifice card if you do a person, but you only get 2 if you do corn.
It's like, we have different tiers of sacrifices, and this is, you ordered this tier of it.
And if you do the top tier of sacrifice, you get more corn later. It's kind of a win-win.
It's like, essentially, it's essentially Mesoamerican Patreon.
Oh.
Tell me I'm wrong at this point. It's just like, you see, with corn, you get tier 1, and that gives you a kind of okay harvest and no plagues. It's like, but if you sacrifice your sister, you may be a god in your next life.
Yeah.
So the Aztecs didn't sacrifice their own family. That's why Aztecs are known for, like, going to war, because they'll sacrifice the other guy.
Well, yeah, you don't want to sacrifice the people you actually kind of like, sort of. Like,
Yeah.
screw those other people, though.
No, listen. They would sacrifice whoever, and just like, listen, we want to show how much we do it. Like, they would look at the prettiest girl in the village and just like, dang, it's like, yeah, no one can have her anymore, right? It's like, I know, right? It's like, well, up until the altar you go. It's like, but why? It's like, first off, you're too pretty, and the gods like you too much, because fuck you, they're the gods, okay? They're the gods. Actually, oh my god, I think one of the funniest discoveries I think that ever happened with when they were digging up Aztecs was when they first just like were digging up the bodies and look at the hands and just found tiny skulls inside them. They're like, what are these things? And just for years upon years, just had no idea what these were. It was like, all right, just cool little decor things. Probably like, I don't know what they are. It's like probably some decor. But it wasn't until one day someone decided to take it. It's like, it looks kind of like a little pipe. So it's just like, it decides to blow into it. And that's how they discovered the death whistle.
Oh yeah, those things sound crazy
Mm.
cool too.
But the weird part about it is they have skull mounds. So they have a mound of where they kept all the skulls on there. The rest of the body's tossed to the left side, but not the skull. We'll keep it on this side.
Yeah, just like, I don't care about the body. That's animal food.
Well, see, that's the weird part. Human hearts is the big thing, is the big scorekeeper on this one. So the chest side would be better, but nope. Keeping the skulls over here.
Well, I think the reason the human heart was so big thing is because like they saw blood as life force, and it's like, okay, so what's the biggest thing to the life force? The heart. And so, what was that one movie Mel Gibson did?
There's so many.
Apocalyptico?
Yes, Apocalypto, where they just like straight just ripped the heart out, burned it, decapitated, kicked it out, just like, oh, okay, throw the body inside, and then just like, and who wants to play catch a skull? But it's amazing how just like they were just so into just the whole sacrifice and all things. They're like even going into just checking out the top of those pyramids, they're still kind of stained red because of all the blood that was there. I was like, man, that happened thousands of years ago. Yeah, and that was a lot of people too.
That's a lot of blood.
Like, again, consistency.
If you're wanting something that I just personally think is cool, it's in the Czech Republic. It's a place called the Sedelic Ossuary. It's also known as the church, roughly translated to the Church of Bones. And it's a chapel, and where all the ornate stuff that's inside the chapel, the chandeliers, I think you call them carvings or incrustations, that when you carve something out of the stone, but instead of a stonework, they replaced it with bones and such. And they have different works of art that's inside there, the same, similar to what you would have as a church, but they're all made with skulls and bones. Also, it sounds like a horrible horror film in there.
Great spot for a D&D campaign.
You know someone wants to.
This also just looks like a great spot to have a nice little gothic party. It's like, all right, everyone, I want you to bring your blackest of attire.
Pretty metal.
You know someone's gotten married in there within the past 10 years too, man. Like, how could you not?
It is super metal for the cell deck.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, man, I'm looking at some of the pictures. It's like, man, this just looks so nice and pretty.
40 to 70,000 skeletons?
That's a lot of
sounds about
skeletons.
right.
What?
What do they do with so many skeletons?
You're like, that might be too many skeletons for my liking.
It's a lot of skeletons.
They build a church.
If there's a necromancer around, we're screwed, y'all.
You're like, oh man, the only thing we have in our party is this necromancer. I know one place that this could be totes.
Oops, all skeletons.
Guys, let's go head over here. It's like, why? Just like, you ever seen a tsunami of skeletons?
You're about to.
Let's make a giant mecha of skeletons with this. That's how that works.
Oh God.
Too many skeletons.
That's too many skeletons.
My goodness. Yeah, if you haven't read the Atlas Obscura page on this, please do. It's amazing. It's pretty incredible. It's too many skeletons.
It's too many skeletons.
I wonder. Here's the thing: like a church has especially old churches like that are in Europe, they would have a graveyard nearby, right?
Right.
Do you think that they would have that? That you're like, okay, I'm going to have to bury a lot of my family members here, and they're like, just to let you know, there'll be furniture by the end of this week.
Well, that's also like just things like the plague. So like there's the skull catacombs, and I think it's Paris. There were just too many bones.
Yeah, Paris has a skull catacombs.
Yeah, there was no place to put them. There's too many bones, and now it's Minecraft, and you have building material.
It's too many bones.
And you're just like, okay, I guess we'll do this.
During Hurricane Katrina, there was a lot of problems with skeletons and such in graveyards because New Orleans is
Underwater.
It's below sea level, and so once the hurricane raised the sea level, just random crypts would just pop up and float in the water.
Oh, okay. So for the ossuary, I guess the reason why they had an influx of bones to work with is because an abbot, abbot of the Celtic monastery known as Abbot Henry, brought a handful of earth back from a journey to the grave of the Lord in Jerusalem. He then scattered his holy soil around the cemetery and made it like the hottest place to go get buried.
I feel like it's still too many bones.
It's still too many bones. Like it says, everyone wanted to be buried in the handful of the Holy Land, and more than 30,000 people were. But it wasn't long before there simply wasn't enough room for everyone, and the bodies were moved to a crypt to make room for the new dead.
Oh my God.
So they hired a wood carver to artistically do something with the bones.
That is amazing.
Oh my God.
Oh, this is incredible.
Hey, I'm gonna bury myself at the Holy Land. You mean Jerusalem? Man, that is so far away. How about this place? Someone left dirt here. Close enough? Yeah, close enough.
Yeah, it's just
And
like
years later, this place is too hot. Too many people want to be buried here.
The cemetery got like the hottest Yelp review, and everyone wanted in.
As you can see right here in this plot, it is the most divine place. People are just dying to get here.
Hey.
We know we had to make that joke at least
that
once.
pun was coming.
It's only a matter of time.
The only other famous real skulls that I can think of off the top of my head, though, is the skulls of saints, like Saint Peter, Saint Michael, and various other saints. Basically, during the Dark Ages, you have medieval knights running around, and they are not exactly as noble as they're depicted in lots of media and such. Okay.
You don't say.
Yeah, shocking. So, I think one of the knights actually wrote books and novels while in jail for doing the crimes that he said that doing the crimes that he's writing about in these novels that he's stopping this time. The problem with the medieval knights in this case is more along the lines of feudalism, because the way feudalism works out is you're a peasant, you're a farmer. Your job is to make as much food for the farms to give to the lord and the knights of the realm. All right. Now, the Knights of the Realm, their job is to keep bandits and other people from killing and fighting and stealing from the peasantry that's here. All right? But they don't fight all the time, so they're just a bunch of basically pent-up, rage-filled knights ready to throw down with other people. At some point, some of these guys do go nuts, and they start actually, slaughtering people. And unfortunately, it's the medieval ages. That's a thing that happens, along with the plague and, disasters upon disasters. The Dark Ages was not a fun time. But so what a lot of these churches did, because they had the bones of saints there, because even though these knights will destroy an area, they still hold I guess piety to the church. They still have some reverence to the church. So people were like, "Hey, stop destroying this land. Look at these bones of these saints. What would Saint Michael think about you, sir? Look at them." Like guilt trip them into stopping them from raising a land. It works sometimes.
Sometimes is the key phrase there.
It's like what happened the other times? Well, the other times they remembered. Yeah, that's just a skull.
Yeah, not all of them will. They're like, you'll get those knights who are essentially, just meh, whatevs, and that's the one that these abbots and holy men basically have to worry about. The ones that don't care what the Pope says.
It's like, you know what? I wasn't a fan of you anyways. You were my third favorite Pope.
So now that we've gone through some of these fictional locations and different, or not fictional, most of these are actual places that you can go visit. We have in fiction, in Civilization's real life, we have different skulls that are just there. Some of them are talking skulls, like a big one in Greek culture in Greek mythology is Orpheus's skull, because Orpheus is the son of the muse Calliope. In most cases, it's Calliope, or possibly, or possibly the king of Thrace. And what happens to Orpheus is that Orpheus decides that he wants to get married to Eurydice, Eurydice's wife, and unlike the most faiths and problems within the Greek mythology, his wife dies by being bitten by a snake. Not really anyone's fault, just an accident, random snake at the wedding. Who knew? Okay. So she dies and goes to the land of the dead. Good old Hades. Orpheus is grief stricken and wants to be with his wife. So what Orpheus does is find a way into the underworld. Anybody knows anything about traditional Hades? Hades doesn't like it when people try to bring people back from the dead. It's not a thing Hades enjoys. And what he does is that Orpheus comes down there, and Orpheus is like, "Well, I don't have much to give, but I kind of want to get my wife out of this place. Do you think I could just play you a sweet jam about this?" And Hades is like, "All right, whatever. Here's the sweet song that Orpheus plays, and it is amazing. We're talking 5 stars. 10 out of 10 would listen to this guy again." He's like, "Okay, I will let you take Eurydice back, but whatever you do not look back. Just go to the exit and leave." So Orpheus gets Eurydice, and Orpheus and Eurydice starts making their way out the exit. And before they get to the exit, Orpheus is like, "No, Hades is tricking me. Hades is probably playing some weird trick on this. Here's the thing. Zeus will trick you. Mercury, oh, not Mercury, but Hermes, he's the trickster god. May I trick you? Hades is all business all the time, though." So what Hades does, he decides to look back, sees Eurydice, and Eurydice gets pulled back and stuck in the land of the dead. With basically Hades just looking upon him, going, "I warned you, didn't I warn you? Now you gotta be punished for this," and cuts him. Orpheus loses his head, so his head is just a skull that's talking, singing skull, because it won't die because he's got some deity blood in him. So what they do is that Orpheus gets sent to the to so Orpheus is doomed to basically be like that emo kid in the corner and sing the saddest songs ever. But he gets presented to the Maenads, who are devotees of Dionysus in another island. But the Maenads basically have no chill, and I got my mythology wrong. It's not Hades who cuts off his head. It's the Maenads that cut off his head. But so the Maenads, basically because they have no chill, cut off Orpheus's head, and not realizing that that's not going to stop Orpheus. Orpheus is going to keep on trucking. And he's just going to keep on going with this. So Orpheus will keep singing prophecies and songs, and all he is a head and a talking skull. And that's probably one of the most famous talking skulls on it. Although personally, my favorite of the talking skulls is probably Murray, the talking skull from Monkey Island. And so what Murray, the talking skull, does is that he plots to get revenge and also to take over the world, but he is not very good at it, and he is only just a skull.
It's like kind of hard to be efficient when you're just a skull, though.
Yeah. Go ahead, move around. Oh, you can't. You're just a talking skull here.
You have to appreciate the hustle.
Yeah, he got the hustle. He's in like most of the Monkey Island games, so he's got some hustle on that.
It's like, I can't blame a guy for trying. Just like, listen, man, you're trying, but at some point, you're going to need to throw in a towel.
So what other kind of famous skulls or fiction or non-fiction famous skulls that you guys know of?
I mean, I feel like there are tons of skulls and skeletons, but a lot of them don't really have a lot of deep backstory to them, necessarily. Yeah.
Not really. That's sort of the weird thing. You have a crystal skull, but even in the movie Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, there are skulls made of crystal.
We don't talk about that. we don't talk about that one.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about Crystal Skull.
But what about there's other ones that have kind of cinematically. There's two big famous skulls I know of. There's the Predator, which that's just because the Predators keep a lot of skulls. That's their trophies. And the other one, which is Terminator, the Terminator skull.
Mm-hmm.
With his beady red eyes and such. Look, Arnold Schwarzenegger coming down the street to try to kill me. I'm okay with that. That's a whole lot of muscle. I know what's going to happen. But a robotic skull a skeleton that's coming at me? All right, I'm kind of out. I'm done.
It's not what you signed up for.
Not what I signed up for.
Yeah, it's like the only even like sculpture skeletons I can even think on top of my head right now is just Brooke from One Piece, who just like going down making music, but at the same time just makes some type of skull pun at least once per episode.
Mm-hmm. One I can think of, and it's just because I have Warcraft on the brain because I've been playing it a lot lately, is there is a talking skull when they remade Sholomance. So sometimes they take old dungeons and they remake them, which is super fun, and it's always cool to see like how mechanics change and stuff like that. But there's a talking skull who like guides you through new Sholomance, who is actually a lore character. Like he's Lord Alexei Barov, who was a Death Knight, and he didn't want to be a Death Knight. Well, he didn't really want to be a talking skull either, but he leads you through on his path of revenge through the dungeon, so that at the end, like, you set his soul free and like the souls of his family, and it's a good feel, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a more recent one I can think of. Obviously, like Sans and Papyrus from Undertale.
Oh yes,
Sans and Papyrus. Is it Sans or Papyrus I'm thinking of? Who's the stocky one? Who looks hilarious. Tallboy is Papyrus.
Tallboy is
Sans
Papyrus.
Is the short one.
Yeah, right. Because their names are based off font types. So they make a lot of font puns, and Comic Sans and Papyrus are like the two universally loathed fonts in graphic design. Like you're never supposed to use them.
I'll just use them.
So
don't worry, I'll make this resume. This will work out great. Comic Sans it is. That looks professional, right?
Oh, yeah. But like in general, most skulls like don't get a chance to really talk. Like they can be very powerful artifacts in and of themselves.
But like very few of them are ever like any actual characters or people.
Right. Like even in Zelda, like you find tons of skeletons and skulls, or bubbles, because they're called bubbles in Zelda for reasons.
No, sir, that's a skull.
But it can't. It's a skull in a bubble, so it's a bubble. obviously. But yeah, I can't think of any, like, even all through Zelda that speak or talk. Like, very rarely. Like, I'm sure there's some
I'm pretty sure there's
NPCs.
one or two.
It's like there's probably
There's gotta be
more skulls
one.
that just randomly laugh than anything.
Oh, the dude from Twilight Princess.
Wait, what dude in Twilight Princess?
So in Twilight Princess, there is like the mentor skeleton, like the body of the old champion, or what is it called?
I remember what you're talking about in Legend of Zelda
Yeah.
Scarlet Roses.
That he's actually Link, a previous incarnation of Link, the hero spirit. Yeah, he's a previous incarnation of Link from Ocarina Majora, who you find as a golden wolf in the field, and then
Ooh.
when you transport to his spirit realm, he is a skeleton who just tries to beat the crap out of you to teach you his ways.
I'm gonna teach you ways. Please, why with the fighting? We don't need this.
I'm going to teach you with the sharp side of my sword, son.
Why don't you just give me a pencil and a piece of paper? I can work with that.
Nope, none of that.
Doom, the game Doom, almost always has it's called a revenant, and it's a skeleton with two missile launchers that yells at you and then fires missiles at you. But there's also a set of skulls that float around. They're called lost souls, and they are a set of skulls that are floating around that are on fire, and their main plan of attack is to run into you. It's not a fun one because you're basically having a flaming skull being forced down your throat. No one likes that.
I mean, they don't have many other methods of attack here, though.
No.
Like, what choice do they get? Come over here and I'ma bite you.
They'll
Bite you.
they will do their best, and it's like, what else are you gonna do? Headbutt you.
Repeatedly into submission.
It's like anything else. Oh, but you again.
This isn't working out for me. I'm out. um,
Oh, okay. So I think one, and it's literally just like this minor, just little pettish character from Maya and the Three. It's this Mesoamerican show on Netflix. Yep, but it was the son. This guy named Zat, and he literally just rides this skeleton of a puma that's on fire.
okay. Very metal.
And it's like, oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. This guy, when he just comes up, you get a cut on the sheer edginess he comes up on. All right, he's no. Okay, hold up. Okay,
Is he an entire Hot Topic?
That's how edgy he is. An entire hot.
I need to know. Yeah, an entire Hot Topic from the early 2000s.
honestly, he could say he's the son of Batman because no, he's the Prince of Bats because his dad is the god of bats.
Oh my jeez.
And he's like this like half human. It's essentially a demigod, a human hybrid. And it's like, I am Zats, the Prince of Bats.
Thanks, I love it.
There's definitely fan fiction.
There's
in that.
definitely fan fiction.
You know what? He's voiced by Diego Luna, and it's like, God, he has a beautiful voice. But also he also represents how big a simp some guys can be. I'm just like, so what's this warrior princess you're fighting? She was courageous and beautiful. I was like, bro, she was swinging a glass sword at you. And the only thing you could think of, just like, you're so pretty when you're trying to murder me.
You're so pretty when you're trying to kill me.
In this house, we fully stand sword women.
Oh, we definitely do over here too.
Samesies.
It's like actually also this has we stand the swordswoman, especially when they have their machismo simp right by their side.
Yup.
It's like I am here to sharpen the blade for my love.
You know, that's all I want in life. You know, just give me that.
you want a man who just loves you so much. It's like, babe, don't worry, I'll sharpen your sword for you. It's like,
and a sword, yes. Let's go.
Let's just go with the sword. Oh, yeah. Most of the time, like skulls don't get their due as a talking skull or a living entity.
No, they're just there as a representation of.
And they're never really wise, are they? Like, sometimes they impart wisdom, but I typically feel like you're not dealing with the wizened wizard that's telling you secrets.
You know, what? Why is that? It's just like, what is it with just like the character of the skull? Just like, okay, and it's like, and the hat can be funny. It's like, why? It's like, can we have a serious skull character? It's like,
Well, a serious one would be scary. A funny one, that's the one you can trust.
it's like you either have scary ones trying to kill you or funny ones that are just, you know what? I like you.
What's interesting is that usually when you deal with a talking skull, though, they're usually some sort of guide most of the time. Murray is used to explain certain side quests, not side quests, certain puzzles that you have to deal with, and you have to guide him to it. Other ones, such as Jerry from Graveyard Keeper, he guides you through the tutorial. So a lot of talking skulls will act as certain guides to yourself, which is kind of a weird one. But most of the time, skulls, I believe, are just typically they're just some sort of symbolic or symbolism for themselves.
Or maybe they always, like, a lot of them have quests, like, where you help them pass on, like the Talking Skull and Sholomance, that you are helping him with his unresolved trauma and need for revenge, so...
I was like, so what can I help you out with? Well, you see, I was in the middle of my quest, and then I got cursed. And as you can see, I'm very incapable of completing said quest. Help a guy out.
Could you help a brother out on this one?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If a skull can talk, it doesn't have a lot of power. If a skull is without speech, it can be a very powerful magical artifact.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a good spot to think about wrapping this up. If you bump into a skull, see how much dialogue you can get from said skull. Not a lot, probably okay, probably dangerous. A lot of dialogue, then not that dangerous for you as well. It's fine.
It's fine, yeah.
But also, if it doesn't talk to you, maybe just pointing you to the right direction. Or maybe it gives you peaceful advice. Or maybe it's an instrument to scare the crap out of your friends.
Or maybe it rolled away from the church.
It rolled away, it's like, hey! Like,
One of the chandelier skulls got loose.
So much like real estate, your danger of skulls is based on location, location, location.
it's like, what's the location saying? Right now, what's saying is that the skull shouldn't be here right now. So we either found something really cool, but if it starts talking, it's kind of a roulette wheel after that.
If you're like York from Hamlet, you just lying there, you pick it up, or if it's a skull that just sort of rolls out of the ossuary, probably not that dangerous. Especially if you're at the Celadec ossuary, they got like 1 million of these ones, really. But okay, if you are in, say, some giant dungeon deep into the dank depths of other D words, dank depths of darkness, dungeon
Of dungeon delving.
Dank, dark dungeons of dark druidly daisies. I don't know. By Doug Dimmadome, home of Dimsdale Dim.
And if you find one skull, you haven't seen a single living thing around here, and just that one skull on an altar, you leave that alone.
Like, I don't feel safe.
Altar skulls are always bad news, I feel.
Mm-hmm. I feel that that's a safe bet.
It's like rolling skulls. What could that mean? Well, give it a sec, take a step back, and wait. It could mean a lot of things. Something is trying to tell you something. Someone threw that skull, and you should run away from what threw that skull.
All right. So I'm gonna close this out.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any final thoughts on talking skulls or other famous skulls? Outside of our warnings about skulls in general.
Or potential great ideas and friends.
I think the takeaway is beware of bones.
Yeah. I guess beware of bones for most of that.
Yeah.
It's like, if there are bones where there shouldn't be bones, and you're not near a place that's very representative of bones, assess the situation accordingly.
Assess your situation. Remember, location. Does this location need to have this many bones?
It's like, okay, I don't know, going down Aguascalientes, and you're like, Museum of Death. Okay,
You're fine.
That sounds
You
about
should
right.
see a bone or two, yeah. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it's
it's
disappointing. Huh.
Otherwise, disappointing. Yeah, at that point, not
Mhm,
enough bones
mhm,
is
mhm.
disappointing for that.
Yeah, but then it's like you go to Disneyland, and then one of the skeletons is on the ride with you, and you're like, how did you get there?
This isn't even a ride. This is the line to get a churro. That's where you should not have a skull.
Though, very few things would deter me from a good churro.
Yeah, good enough churro. I'm in.
Yeah. Go at a left past the cursed skull, get your churro, let's go.
It's like, so that all I'm seeing right now is that even after death, you still love churros.
Oh, heck
Yeah. Everyone loves churros. It's universal.
It's like, I love this churro. Unfortunately, I don't got a stomach to handle it.
I'd still eat
Because
it.
I'm dead.
Oh, man.
It's like the dumbest skull joke. All right.
Oh, that is poor. With that, we're gonna head out. Our next show, which should be airing on podcasting in May 6th. So
Ooh.
fun one for that episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody who's been listening to this program. I hope you enjoyed this little EXP boost knowledge. And this is Gaming Theater logging out. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Gaming Theater Podcast is hosted, created, produced, and edited by Leo Garcia, the Geek Scorpio. Our music is A Drinking Game. Stock media provided by Stormwave Audio /Pond5. Our cover art is made by Spice and Rose. You can find her at https://spiceandrose.card.co. That's card with 2 R's. If you want to send us some financial support to help with producing things for Gaming Theater, you can do so at patreon.com/gamingtheaterpresents. It helps us out. Want to send support that doesn't hit your wallet? Please leave a review with wherever you hear your podcasts and share our podcast with your friends. It really helps out. Thank you for listening.